Home prices in Montana keep going up as we enter 2025. They're up by about 3% year over year. However, certain data is saying that 2025 could finally be the year where prices start to slip and correct. In this video, I'm going to give you all the data on the Montana housing market so you can understand where things are heading. And the first thing to understand is the appreciation in the last 12 months. You can see here Montana has grown its home price by 3.1% over the last year. This growth is down significantly from the peak of the pandemic and follows 1.4% growth in 2023. So Montana's housing market has definitely slowed. There isn't the same crush of people moving in from California and Washington that there were in 2020 and 2021. However, the prices are still really expensive for local home buyers in Montana because I don't know if you guys know this, but the median household income in the state of Montana is barely over $70,000 a year. That's well below the US average. And the result is that the home price to income ratio in Montana is 6.2. That's the second most expensive state for real estate in the US. And so we have a bit of a housing bubble going on here in Montana right now. The prices went up way more than the fundamentals dictated by local incomes and rents. And of course, we all know why that happened, right? There was a crush of people moving in during the pandemic. Montana actually broke records for the amount of people moving into the state, with the state adding 21,000 net people due to inbound migration in 2021. You can see that's the highest level of migration going back 30 years. Here on Reventure app, we have 30 years of migration data for every county, metro, and state. Now, you can see this migration has since eased significantly. In 2023, it dropped down to 10,000 net people moving in, and I wouldn't be surprised if in 2024 it drops even further. There's some interesting trends we're now seeing in Montana's housing market is an increase in inventory. There's now 4,900 homes actively for sale on the market at the end of 2024. You can see that this has grown every year the last 3 years, and we're now approaching the pre-pandemic levels of inventory in Montana. So this is good news if you're a Montana prospective home buyer. There's more homes for sale. In addition, the days on the market for houses increased significantly over the last year from 78 days to 88 days, again approaching that pre-pandemic level. So some of the technical indicators in the housing market, which are telling you the real-time relationship between supply and demand, are saying Montana is tilting slightly more in favor of buyers as we enter 2025, suggesting we could start to see price corrections begin in certain cities. Montana is actually a pretty small metro area, everyone. It really only has 3 or 4 metros over 100,000 population. So you could see that there's Billings at 190,000 population. That's the biggest metro area. Then there's Bozeman, the second biggest. This is where they film Yellowstone out in Bozeman, 126,000 metro population. Then there's Missoula, where the University of Montana is, and then there's Kalispell. So this is really, with Helena in between, this is really the center of Montana's population. Most of the eastern side of the state is pretty sparsely populated. And we can see values are up across all of these metros over the last year, ranging from 2 to 4%. However, we can see that the inventory in these markets is rising and rising fast, particularly in Bozeman. We're now up to 734 homes on the market. That's the highest level of inventory in a decade in Bozeman. So the Reventure app home price forecast score for Bozeman actually is suggesting prices are down over the next year, will go down because of this higher inventory as well as higher price cuts in DOM. But there's a lot of relief needed for Montana home buyers because values are about 30% overvalued across the state. Montana has some of the most overvalued home prices in America right now based on the data. And the reason that they're overvalued is because the relationship of the home prices to income got all out of whack during the pandemic. And ultimately, it's income that dictates a housing market over the long term. So in the short term, prices can move up and down around the levels of income or around the long-term ratio of the levels of income. But eventually, prices tend to gravitate towards levels of income, or the levels of income go up towards the level of prices. And so we're not going to see this forever in the Montana housing market where it's just ridiculously expensive for local buyers. Either at some point the prices need to drop or the incomes need to go up or some combination thereof needs to happen. So I want to show you actually some houses here in Bozeman, like just so you can see how expensive it now is to buy in Montana. Here we have a three bath condo. It's technically a condo, but it looks kind of more like a townhome, attached townhome. This is $300 a foot to be in a 5 or 6 year old condominium. You can see they actually originally listed this condo in August 2022 for $560. Then they cut it to $499 in October 22, and then it sold in November 22. We don't know what it sold for because Montana is a non-disclosure state. 2 years later, the seller is relisting at a higher price. So they're still trying to get 7.2% appreciation over the last 2 years. Now, what if we actually try to find a house with some acreage, everyone? Let's just say a minimum 2 acres. These would be kind of the more ranch style houses that I know a lot of people are looking for in Montana. This is kind of cool. This looks like almost something out of Yellowstone with the background. I mean, that's unbelievable. The house itself is okay, but really what you're paying for here is the land and the views. And you got to pay $1 million for this 3-bed, 2-bath on 4 acres. It's been on the market for 200 days. It's got a conservation easement protecting the privacy. But what's crazy is that this owner bought it in 2022 for around 800 grand, and now they want $1 million. So they're trying to get 26% appreciation in the last 2.5 years when the market has probably only gone up by about 4 or 5% over the last 2.5 years. So this owner, they're going to have to reduce the price if they want to sell this. Here's another one, everyone. This looks like a barn dominium. It's on 2.8 acres, 4-bed, 3-bath, 3,500 square feet. This one also looks like it has great land and great views. It's for $995,000. They just did a $100,000 price cut. What's actually interesting about Montana is the property taxes are really cheap. So your taxes on something like this would only be $3,900 a year. You can see the overall property tax rate in Montana is 0.6%. That's one of the lower ones in the US. Comparatively, if you're to buy a house in Texas, your property tax rate is 1.4% of your value. But ultimately, these prices are still really expensive, especially if you're buying with a mortgage. Your payments can be $7,500 a month. So I wouldn't be surprised if Montana's housing market corrects over the next year or two. And one of the reasons why, everyone, is that there's been a big drop in demand. The demand to buy houses in Montana has actually fallen off a cliff over the last 2 years. And this is a trend that not a lot of people are talking about, but I'm going to show you the data here from Redfin on the home sales in Montana. The home sales are actually at the lowest level in decades. Because I want you to check out this graph, everyone. This graph is showing the weekly adjusted home sales in Montana going all the way back to 2017, data from Redfin. And what you can see here is that through December 2024, weekly adjusted home sales are 223 per week in the state of Montana. Now, you could see that this is down 50% from the peak in 2020 during the pandemic when there was 430 adjusted home sales per week. So a 50% decline in buyer demand from the pandemic peak. But not only that, today's adjusted home sales, according to Redfin, are about 25 to 30% below where they were for the same week in 2018 and 2019. So not only has the demand to buy dropped off significantly from the pandemic, it's well below what it was before the pandemic, meaning that the months of supply on the market is now getting to the highest level we've seen in the last 7 years. Months of supply takes the inventory levels and divides it by the sales pace. The higher the months of supply goes, the better it's going to be for you as a buyer. And so I think, a lot of people in Montana might be frustrated that prices are still really high, that the out-of-towners pushed up the prices a lot and that they haven't come down. But the good news is, objectively speaking, the indicators in the market are saying it's getting more favorable for you as a buyer. Even if it doesn't seem that way yet, with the prices still high, there's more homes for sale, they're sitting on the market for longer, the sales volume's way down, and the months of supply is way up. All of those indicators suggest it should be more favorable for you as a buyer in 2025. And if you want to do more research on the Montana housing market, head to www.reventure.app, where you can dig into the home price and forecast trends in the different metros and all the different counties across the state, even the more rural ones to the eastern side. On Reventure app, we have a free plan that allows you to see home value and inventory data in every zip code across the state for free. And then if you want to upgrade to the premium plan, you get the home price forecast for the next 12 months for your area that you're looking for, as well as how overvalued prices are compared to long-term norms. This data is tremendously helpful and valuable for all of you as a home buyer trying to understand the trends in Montana real estate in 2025. So head to www.reventure.app right now and sign up for an account.